Hello and welcome to Adapt or Perish, a podcast about adaptation. I'm Jeremy Latour.
And I'm Ian Averill. And today, well, I'm confused about
It's easy.
some things that we're talking about, but because of what this episode is, I'm going to say we're talking about adaptation.
Yeah.
I could say we're talking about the Orchid Thief, but we're talking about adaptation.
We will talk about the Orchid Thief a little bit, but we're talking about adaptation.
In a specific and meta way.
Yep.
Much like the movie.
Welcome, everybody, to the final episode of Adapt or Perish, a podcast about adaptation. I got lots of feelings. We'll talk about them at the end. Do you got feelings?
I mean, you know, I'm not as... I feel like I'm not as adept at feelings as you are, but I certainly
Just having them?
Yeah, like, no, I mean, like, talking about them. But,
Oh, I see. Okay.
But I'm, you know, I've got them.
Yeah.
I feel things.
You're always walking around going, Ian's sad. Welcome to the final episode.
Yeah.
Just quick history. Adapt or Perish started 8 years ago. I started it with my spouse, Ari Lipshaw. When Ari left the show a couple of years ago, my best friend Ian stepped in. Ian, it's been very nice to have you here.
Hello, thank you.
We've been helped out a number of times by our official research assistant, Alex, who is great. Now it's time for the show to end. It is time to do other things. Like I said, I'm feeling a kind of a way about it, but you know what? That's fine. Now, here's the deal, though. From when Ari and I first started doing the show, we always had a massive backlog of things that we could do. I talk about the backlog all the time. You've heard me talk about it. You know, It's when I say this one's been in the backlog for a while, which happens when you've been doing a show for 8 years. Things can be in the backlog for a really long time. Well, there's one thing that has been in the backlog forever, but we've been saving it because we always knew that it would be the final episode of the show. Because, I mean, it's
always nice. It's always nice when you have that, when you have an idea in your head of what you always want the last episode to be.
Yeah. And you know what? It didn't even occur to me until today that we're literally, in order to do adaptation, the movie adaptation of Susan Orlean's book, The Orchid Thief, we're kind of breaking a rule that we talked about, like an unofficial rule that we talked about last year in a mini episode when we talked about how we don't do things that are based on true stories.
Right.
So here we are talking about a movie based on a true story. It's a little different. It's different for a number of reasons, but I wanted to acknowledge it.
You got to have the exception, you know, that solidifies the rule or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, in so many ways, the things we're talking about today are exceptions that prove the rule. So, like, this is technically based on a true story. However, the book is a book of reportage, you know, literary reportage. It's not a biography about any one particular person, even though there are certain people that factor very heavily into it, including the author herself, Susan Orlean. But that's not really what it's about. Like, no, I don't think almost anyone watching the movie adaptation, certainly not us, is going, I'm thinking about these people in terms of the real people they're portraying. Oh, who's that?
Oh boy.
Oh, hey, buddy.
Hi.
I love you. Do you want to say night-night to Uncle Ian?
Yeah. Oh, hang on.
Yeah?
Headphones.
Oh, do you need the headphones?
Hey. Hi, Calvin. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Are you going to bed?
Yeah.
Well, I hope you sleep well.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night-night, buddy. I love you.
Night.
Go to bed. Just in case anybody's wondering, why don't you have time to do this show anymore? Well, that's why I don't have time to do this show anymore.
You have a stampeding child who just bursts into rooms, and
I mean, I thought about unloading the kid, but then Ari pointed out to me that, I mean, the kid should take higher priority than the podcast. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right.
I guess so. Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk about this book for a second. I imagine that our experience of the movie adaptation was very similar to a lot of people who were also about 20 and into movies around 2002 when the movie came out, which is that we'd never read the book The Orchid Thief.
Hey, buddy.
What's up?
I've just got a surprise for you.
What's that?
I could tell leading up to it that you weren't aware of this, but I had never seen Adaptation. I've never watched it.
But you were aware of it.
I was aware of it. I never really understood the whole thing with its relationship to the book, or like that it was even like, you know, quote unquote based on a book. This just worked out because like I think it's kind of a fun thing to like have experienced the book first.
Yeah.
And then actually see this quote unquote adaptation of it.
Here's the thing. I already felt that way because I saw it 23 years ago when it came out, and I had never seen it since. And the thing I always remembered about Adaptation was like, Nicolas Cage, twins, there's Chris Cooper has no teeth, there's a car crash in it. Like, those are the things I remember, and I also remember it being good. But I remembered very little of it. So I actually did feel, as I was going through this experience, that I could put myself into the shoes of someone who had read The Orchid Thief in the late 90s. Right. Because it was a bestseller, like, who had read it, really liked it, and then gone to see this movie based on it and been just a little confused.
Well, yeah, especially since, like, the stuff that is the book in this movie is so particular, it's like weirdly different than the actual book. Like, yes, like it's very different in a lot of ways, but there's interesting, there's passages from the book, but it doesn't really give you an idea of the whole vibe of the book at all, except there's like a scene where he's yelling about the kind of vibe of the book and why he thinks that makes it very hard for him to adapt it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Adaptation doesn't communicate the vibe of the book in its telling. It communicates it by Nicolas Cage saying that this book has a vibe. Yeah. Anyway, let's back up for a second. Okay. So let's put Adaptation aside. So The Orchid Thief was written by Susan Orlean. She was a reporter, worked for The New Yorker. This started originally as a New Yorker article in 1995. In fact, I'll read a back of the book right now. A modern classic of personal journalism, The Orchid Thief is Susan Orlean's wickedly funny, elegant, and captivating tale of an amazing obsession. Determined to clone an endangered flower, the rare ghost orchid Polyrhiza lindeni, a deeply eccentric and oddly attractive man named John LaRoche leads Orlean on an unforgettable tour of America's strange flower-selling subculture through Florida's swamps and beyond, along with the Seminoles who help him and the forces of justice who fight him. In the end, Orlean and the reader will have more respect for underdog determination and a powerful new definition of passion.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll go ahead and say this. I found this book to be a pleasant surprise. It's really good.
Here's like, it is... If I was to have it remind me of another book the most, it would be The Perfect Storm.
Okay.
Just because like both of them, like The Perfect Storm is a little different in that it like goes back and forth between like chapters that are telling the story of what's happening and then chapters that are just an info dump about sword fishing.
Yes.
And where this book is just kind of like only the info dump chapters about like the thing, with like at the last minute it's like and a little bit of story happens, like
yeah, like John LaRoche is a surprisingly minor character in the book The Orchid Thief, and he is literally the titular character.
Yeah, things happen so slowly in the telling of the book because she's basically telling you so much information about orchid subculture and Florida that that's like the whole book is just her being like, it's basically so we went to this place. Oh, well, the thing with that is that, you know, then it's like half an hour of details about that thing. Sounds like I don't want people to think that when I say this, I'm like maybe sounding negative about it. I'm not. I love that.
Yeah.
This is the kind of book that it's like, it seems like Susan Orlean was maybe being confronted with, I mean, this is probably not true, I don't want to read into, but like it's written as though it's like, it's very matter of fact about her seeming like she's just like being wowed by being exposed to like an obsessive subculture for the first time, and how that's affecting her and how she kind of like almost becomes part of it, like, you know, in several ways. And that's cool and interesting enough. It's also the kind of thing where like if you've been like kind of part and going in and out of obsessive subcultures your entire life, like maybe us, then you kind of are reading this and there's a little bit of, for me, there's a little bit of like, well, like I'm very familiar with these weirdos, like, you know, like I don't know anything about orchids or cultivation,
like,
but
weirdos like this are usually the reason that I've gotten out of specific subcultures that I've been part of.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, I was talking with my partner Megan about this a little bit, and I was basically just like, it's, you know, it's just like collecting Pokemon cards or something.
It's not the same because nobody spends thousands of dollars on Pokemon cards.
Buddy. Got some interesting news for you.
Oh, but, no.
But then also I was talking to Megan about how like this, because she's a plant person.
Yep.
And I'm whatever the opposite of a plant person is. I have no interest in plants or keeping them alive or cultivation or anything like that. But I did get to say, like, you know, and that is like a slightly different side of obsessive. It's different than obsessive fandom because you're doing work and you're keeping something alive and you're doing large amounts of creative work to grow something and to feel accomplishment from it, which is not my kind of hobby, you know, usually.
I mean, what you're describing is like building any collection of anything.
Well, true, but also like that's the way that I'm saying it's the same, but also I feel like when cultivation is involved, it's a little different.
Yeah.
But my point is that I was able to talk to Megan and be like, you know, this definitely helped me connect to like plant people a little better and get a little bit of my brain around that world. Mm-hmm. Not that, you know, I still don't have much of an interest, but like it, I get it.
Can I tell you something? I'm a plant person now.
Oh, yeah?
So when my child came home from the first year of pre-K, something else was sent home. All these little kids, they planted plants. And they'd grown for several months. And so we got a plant in a pot that was decorated by our kid. Mm-hmm. Guess who's in charge of taking care of the plant?
Not Calvin?
Nope. Me, baby.
You.
And can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I'm so proud of how I've done. This plant has thrived. It is what I believe is a golden pothos, an Epipremnum aureum.
Okay.
I used a plant identification app to get that. And I got to tell you, like, I've been taking care of this plant all summer. And taking care of it and watching it like grow and bud while reading The Orchid Thief, I'm just saying it made the experience a little special.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Do you know how many more plants I think we're going to get?
Probably none.
Probably none.
Yeah.
So the book is about passion. The book is about obsession. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things we didn't talk about is like what the arrest was. So basically in 1994, John LaRoche, this weird guy who, as we said, is like kind of the main character of the book. I will say this about his presence in the book. In a book that reminds me of Moby Dick in many ways, you know, Orlean is looking for the ghost orchid, her white whale. No. It has large chapters that are just about the science of the thing that they're going after. Yep. John LaRoche is not so much Ahab as much as he is Moby Dick because he is discussed a lot.
Yes.
But he's not actually seen much. But it's the kind of thing where, like, he's there every now and then, and she has these, and he's such a weird character, and he is, I mean, here's the thing, he sounds awful to be around.
Yes.
And I think it's incredible that Orlean was able to spend as much time with him as she did, but he sounds difficult to be around.
Sure. Well, I mean, I kind of love the back of the book that you read, where it describes him as, like, as
oddly
all of
attractive.
those things, but strangely attractive. It was really that moment that I thought to myself, like, I mean, I already liked it, but man, the Chris Cooper casting was just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Like with this, like it was so good.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I think it's very clear too that the whole like oddly attractive thing, it's about like being, I don't think they mean like physically attractive. They definitely mean like charismatic.
They also mean like, yeah, his like, and his kind of like just rash forwardness and, you know, everything about him.
Yep.
He's quite the character.
Quite the character. So he was arrested in 1994 for poaching rare orchids from the Fakahatchee Strand State Preserve in Florida. And hearing him talk about his whole plan, which I'm so happy ended up in the movie, that he partnered up with a group of Seminoles because there's a law on the books that says that they cannot be prosecuted for killing an endangered species.
Yeah.
And so his whole thing was, well, I'll go in with them, but they'll pick them and I won't touch anything and we'll be set. Because there's another law in the book that says you can't take any plants out of a state preserve.
Right.
And he's like, well, obviously, because he's the kind of person who's like, I know how this works. I know more about this than anybody else does. I'm smart. Everyone else is dumb. And that it doesn't work out the way he wants it to in ways that are fun and legal and interesting. And it was kind of fun throughout the book getting these little hints of like what the Florida prosecutors did to win the case. But that's not the main thing about the book. The main thing about the book is plants.
Yeah.
But that was how Susan Orlean found out about him and then wrote the article about him in 1995 that was in the New Yorker. And then when that article was published, two things happened. One, she went to Random House to expand it into a full-length book, but also it was optioned as a movie. by Jonathan Demme's company.
Mhm.
And she was like, I don't, is the movie? All right. And they're like, this guy's such a character. She's like, okay, that's fine. But can you wait until I write the book? And they're like, yes, we will wait until you write the book before we start doing anything with it. So she writes the book, The Orchid Thief. It was very popular. I believe reviews were somewhat mixed, but generally pretty positive. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then there was something else that came out in the late 90s was this movie Being John Malkovich, which was directed by Spike Jonze and written by Charlie Kaufman, who was lucky to have been the first Charlie Kaufman type writer in the movies. When Charlie Kaufman started writing stuff, they didn't have anybody to compare him to.
Yeah.
Created a whole genre.
Very lucky of him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so he wrote Being John Malkovich, and that was made into a movie with John Malkovich and John Cusack and Cameron Diaz. It's a good movie. At that same time, people really liked his script. He was hired, because The Orchid Thief had come out as a book at this point, he was hired to write the adaptation of The Orchid Thief. So, like, there is an alternate timeline where a really kind of straightforward movie about flowers and passion came out that was by the writer of Being John Malkovich, called The Orchid Thief.
And the funniest part is that, like, the vast majority of it could have just been what we saw of those characters on screen in this movie.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if it could have ended the same way for those characters.
That's why I said the vast majority.
There you go.
But just all the stuff of them going, it could have just been a lot more of that. And it would have been a movie that was a faithful adaptation of that book, you know? But if you've seen the movie, the point when LaRoche and Orlean she finally sees a ghost orchid.
Yep.
And then they kind of get lost and then, like, trudge off, you know, that's the end of the book.
It is.
Like,
yeah.
And so
it's halfway through the movie. It's like right at the midway point of the movie.
I found that delightful.
Well, it's the biggest change too, and that was the thing I love, because we should really talk about how the movie functions, because it is confusing that Charlie Kaufman is a character in it, but also it is depicting the events of the book. But we'll get to that in a second. But one of the things I love about the change that it makes, about that being halfway through, is that that was like one of my favorite parts of the book, because it's the part of the book where she's finally kind of letting loose to the reader about what she really thinks of John LaRoche. And she has a whole passage about how she was like, I contemplated murdering him that day in the Fakahatchee Strand because he got them lost in the swamp while trying to find a ghost orchid, which they don't find.
Not in the book, right?
Not in the book,
like, yeah. They do in the movie, but... Yeah.
In the movie, that scene is changed so that not only does she not want to kill him, even though so many events from that chapter are in the movie.
She still seems like she's frustrated with him.
Oh,
like,
she's frustrated with him, but she's also a little in love with him.
But it's also, but there's also the weird tone, because that's the whole thing, is that they do find a ghost orchid.
Yes.
But it's disappointing to her.
Right.
Because she kind of has like a weird like reversal about it, where she's like, it's just a flower. Like it's not what I thought it was going to be. You know?
Yeah. But it turns out that he is what she was looking for.
Right.
Because they do fall in love.
Yeah.
And turn to crime. It's the whole thing.
It's incredible.
Backing up, not as far as we did before, but backing up a tiny bit, the movie adaptation. Obviously, we didn't get the movie The Orchid Thief. Instead, Charlie Kaufman had a bit of an emotional spiral trying to adapt this formless, meandering book that doesn't have a story. He had a lot of trouble adapting it. And so instead, what he decided to do is something that I personally hate almost every time I ever see it, which is, I'm a writer. I can't think of what to write. You know what I'll write? I'll write a story of a writer who can't think of something to write.
Right. When you get meta about it, that is a slippery slope.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I mentioned before about like exceptions that prove the rule. To me, Charlie Kaufman and the movie adaptation are exceptions that prove multiple rules.
Yeah, I think he always is the exception.
Yeah.
You know,
like,
especially as he started, to continue to write and make movies, when more and more people were kind of cribbing his style a little bit as time went on. And he still has been able to stay different and fresh and better, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I think the thing about Charlie Kaufman that I really like is that he puts so much of himself into it. Like, Charlie Kaufman scripts and Charlie Kaufman movies, from what my experience of them, I'll be reductive for a second. I'm sure there are people who know a lot more about Charlie Kaufman than I do, is that, yeah, on the surface, they're super weird and really out of left field. Like, here's a movie about a guy who starts working at an office that's kind of weird, and then he finds out that his office has a portal into the brain of John Malkovich, actor John Malkovich. Like, whoa, it's crazy. But like, being John Malkovich is a story about creation and art and about things that are deeply personal to Charlie Kaufman. And Adaptation is another one of those things where like he puts himself into it and he's writing a deeply personal story. It does happen to be about movies and writing and the making of movies and the writing of writings.
The writing of writings.
So when other people try to ape Charlie Kaufman stuff, they can do the style, they can do the twist type stuff. But like, you can't copy the personal nature of his work because that's his.
Yeah,
it's dare I say personal.
Yeah, it's the secret ingredient.
Yeah, I like Charlie Kaufman.
Me too.
So the movie has kind of two parallel stories. One is the story of Charlie Kaufman trying to write an adaptation of The Orchid Thief. Charlie Kaufman is played by Nicolas Cage. You meet agents and literary agents, and you meet his friends, and you see like him on the set of Being John Malkovich, and it's the whole story of that, and about his frustrations and his struggles and his self-loathing and his like. Here's another thing: I normally don't really like narration very much. This is a movie that is an exception that proves the rule, is that narration usually doesn't add anything. But here it adds so much because it is just the most, like, Nicolas Cage as Charlie Kaufman is giving this intense, neurotic, nonstop monologue throughout the whole movie that I would dislike if it didn't work. But for me, it does work. So I like it.
And if it didn't seem so personal. Like,
yeah,
so clear that is actually how, like, well, not exactly how he is, because especially, well, we haven't talked about his brother yet, but
no, we haven't.
We will.
Who the film is dedicated to, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah. But point being is that, it's clear that kind of like obsessive, like monologuing to himself by like writing stuff and ideas by like screaming them into a tape recorder is like definitely how he does it, like, and then playing it back to himself later and him just seeming disgusted with himself. Like,
yes.
That just seems like his entire modus operandi.
Yeah. Disgusted with himself is generally how this character operates in this movie.
Now this version of him is definitely the more self-loathing and neurotic side of his personality distilled into a character.
Yes.
If I had to guess.
Wait, you think maybe it's a bit of an exaggeration?
Yeah, just a bit. But I like the method with which he kind of crystallizes this because, there's his brother, Donald, is also a character. Donald Kaufman, his twin brother, who is totally real, and no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Yeah, the movie is dedicated to his memory because he does die in the course of the story.
That's right. Yep. He's credited as a co-writer.
Right at the beginning, it is one of my. I'm going to go on a little tangent here for a second, but like, the power of the opening credits blows my mind. Like, my favorite opening credit of all time is still "This Is a True Story" from Fargo, which is not true.
Yeah,
it's a lie.
Yeah,
but my God, like what that does to an audience, what it does to a viewing of it, and what it did to audiences when it came out. I love it. I love it so much. I don't mind being lied to in art. I don't mind at all. So I love that. And I think now a close second is written by Charlie and Donald Kaufman.
Yeah.
It just adds to the reality of the movie. I love it so much. So who did you like Nicolas Cage as better, Donald or Charlie?
So obviously, like, I'm not going to be as foolhardy as to say, like, okay, so this is what's going on. Yeah. Like, I will never do that. This is just like how I see it is how I perceive Kaufman's particular, thing he's trying to do with this, is that, like, obviously it's like they're both, like, combined is him.
Yep.
And he gets help from the more confident side of him, but then, like, kind of absorbs what he needs from that side, and then that side is like, then they're not two beings anymore, they're one.
Yes.
And that's just I don't want to say that that's exactly what is being portrayed, but that's how I think about it.
Here's the deal. I feel like it would be absurd to say that didn't occur to them when they were making it.
Yeah. But anyway, it's a fascinating little thing, especially once you just kind of like realize what's happening.
Yeah.
I love. I'll be honest. If I actually had to, gun to my head, answer the question that you asked and couldn't answer both, then it's Donald.
Yeah, it's Donald. Yeah,
because the performance of him like being that kind of like what Kaufman sees as like less talented but confident about it, even though he's not less talented. Like, and I mean that's part of the point too, is that like Charlie is being a pretentious dweeb.
Yes,
and Donald's just like, no, like your audience has to like it. Like,
Well, I mean, that's okay. So here's another rule that this movie I think is the exception to. I've gone on record many times as saying I don't like movies about movies because I find them to be, I'm sorry to everybody, but this is a very appropriate word to use in this episode. I find those movies to be masturbatory.
Well,
and I generally don't like them.
I know.
I can't stand them. Adaptation's fine. I love this movie. It's a great movie.
I think there's a slight difference. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I think that I don't mind when you talk about that. I don't mind it, but I also don't like it. Like, I'm with you on most of those things. There's definitely plenty of movies that are about movies that I like more than you. But more like and again, not to put words in your mouth, but I tend to think of like what I think of as the bad version of that I think that you end up not liking a lot is when it's not movies about movies, it's movies about Hollywood.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing I love about this is that this is a person's story.
Right.
This is like Adaptation is one of those things. It rises above all the other movies about movies by focusing so completely on Kaufman's struggles with art and commerce. Like, it's a person's story. It's his story, not an industry's story. Right. And to your point, like many movies,
it's not an industry mythologizing itself.
Exactly. And
which is the bad part.
And the way he talks about that is through Donald's story of writing the thriller The Three.
Right.
And I love it so much because it is in some ways a really brutal takedown of dumb thrillers, except that even Charlie Kaufman in writing it is constantly having people go, this is really good. Like, your brother Donald is really good.
Yeah. Did you see, I was reading, I think it was in the Wikipedia or something, but like, did you see the thing about just like, there's like two, mainly that weird, like slightly later in the 2000s, John Cusack movie Identity.
Oh, Identity? Yeah.
Yeah, there's like been two movies that have come out that are strangely similar to the plot described of The Three, like in Adaptation. Where people are like, did they just make the movie that Donald Kaufman was writing in Adaptation?
I'm fine with it.
No, me too. No, it's delightful.
So anyway, so that's that part of the story. And like, I don't want to shy away from this because it is a huge part of the story and it is gross. But like, I just want to talk about shame for a second because Charlie Kaufman, the version of himself that he decides to portray to everyone is someone who is fueled by shame. And like, the thing he constantly does is, like, as an example, is constantly fantasizing about every woman that he meets. He's constantly like, and I love the way they portray his fantasies because they're so weirdly realistic and conservative.
Right.
Like, he meets a waitress in a restaurant who's played by Judy Greer. And like, the story starts, like, in his mind, the story starts with them going to an Orchid show.
Yeah.
And then it moves to them having sex in the woods.
Right. Well, and the funny thing about that scene, which I think is exactly what you're talking about, the funny thing to me is how, like, I didn't even guess at all that it was a fantasy literally until she's unbuttoning her blouse. Like,
yeah.
It was up until then that I was like, before that I was like, this could happen. Like, maybe this is happening. It's weird. It's a little fast, but you know, like.
The other one I loved in it is because Tilda Swinton plays the agent who represents Jonathan Demme's company. Jonathan Demme is never named in it, which is weird. Everybody else was willing to put their name in it. I actually saw an interview with Susan Orlean where she was talking about how one of her original things when she agreed to do it, because they sent her the script and she was like, what is this? She's like, it's great. I'm confused. And my only request is that you don't use my name. And they were like, why? And she's like, because it feels too weird and it feels too personal. And kind of proceeded with that, and then eventually changed her mind for multiple reasons. And the two reasons that I've seen her give, one is in the introduction to the new edition of the book. And the reason she gives there is that she realized that if they changed the character's name, then people are going to go see a movie about someone who wrote The Orchid Thief that's not going to be Susan Orlean, and it would confuse people, which I think makes a lot of sense. But the other reason that I think is much better was in a different interview she was giving, where someone pointed out to her, like, you feel like you'll be ashamed to have your name in it. Charlie Kaufman's putting his name in it, and he spends most of the movie masturbating. And like you're worried that like and she's like, no, that's fair. That's totally fair. I'll put my name in it.
Well, I do like what I gleaned from reading stuff about her talking about the.
Sorry, like, I just want to be very clear. Sadly, masturbating.
Yeah, yes, very particularly.
Yes. Sorry, go on.
It is not courageous masturbation in any way, shape, or form.
No, it is not.
No, one of the things that I really liked about reading her talk about her reaction to what the movie was going to be, which you can imagine receiving that script and being like imagine if you got, you wrote this book and you sent the script, and then what you get back from the screenwriter is a thing that it changes everything, and at the end you have an affair with your subject and go into like a drug fueled like bender essentially, and then try to kill somebody. Like, that's weird.
Doesn't she shoot a park ranger? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, wings one at least.
Yes. Yeah.
But she talks about it. She's like, I was like, no way. And I was like, I don't blame you, Susan.
No,
that is a understandable first reaction. And it's so funny because what she describes to me makes it sound like then everyone involved was like, really? You're not okay with it? Everybody loves it. Yeah. And she was like, well, okay. Like, maybe she said okay without really being okay about it, which, is not good. But then when it came, like, by the time it actually happened, then she got it. Yes. And she was like, and she really understood, and she was just like, yeah, okay. Like, and ended up being happy about it. But like, that would be such a weird, that would be such a weird thing to have happen to you.
I feel like there's literally a scene in the movie. There's a sequence in the movie where Charlie develops a relationship with the picture of Susan on the dust jacket of the book. Like, that's the constant thing he's fantasizing about, is that these women are like soothing his ego and then having sex with him. Like, that's Tilda Swinton I was mentioning as like the agent. Like, he imagines them in bed. She's just finished reading his draft of The Orchid Thief, and she's like, you're a genius. And then it cuts to them having sex. And then and then he wakes up again, sadly masturbating. Like, it's fueled by shame. Everything here is fueled by shame. And he develops a relationship with the picture of, it's Meryl Streep, but the picture of her on the dust jacket, and Meryl Streep is like doing that really soft Meryl Streep voice and like assuring him that he's a genius and assuring him that he can do this. And of course, that also happens. And then later, he's literally like going on one of his diatribes in his head, and he like says the phrase I masturbated to the picture of you in the dust jacket, and then it gets cut off there immediately. And like, Susan Orlean had to read that in a script.
Yeah. And just imagine that maybe that didn't actually happen, but maybe it did.
Yeah. But to have her say, no, I'll use my real name. Like, that makes sense to me. Sure. Because Charlie Kaufman wrote such a raw, personal thing. But to me, like, the thing that I think is the line they had to toe, and where I could have seen it going a totally different way, is, there is a scene where Charlie is talking to his agent and is saying, I can't adapt this book. And he starts talking about the book, and he's criticizing the book. But at no point is he criticizing the book as a book. He's criticizing it as something that could be adapted into a movie. Right. Which Susan Orlean was never the person who wanted it adapted into a movie. She didn't go to Hollywood. They came to her. Yeah. He, like, in the scene is saying, this is a good and beautiful book, and I can't do it justice. So the criticisms of it are not, like, it's not really critical of the book. And in fact, one of the things she said in that introduction was, I was really happy to see that the movie portrayed the real heart of the book, which is about the pursuit of passion and how it shapes our lives. And this really brings us to, like, the final part of this, which is talking about adaptation as an adaptation of the Orchid Thief, because everything we've been talking up until now is the stuff about like Charlie and Donald Kaufman and Nicolas Cage's portrayal of them, and that stuff is fun and super effective, and it's some of my favorite stuff in the movie. But right from the beginning, we meet Charlie first getting the job, and then suddenly we're in the version of the Orchid Thief that he's writing, which depicts John in the swamp with his Seminole friends stealing the orchids. And the movie is constantly cutting back to the version of the Orchid Thief that Charlie is trying to write. So we get this really interesting window into what an adaptation of this could have looked like, because we keep saying it goes off the rails. Like, yeah, in the version that Charlie ends up finishing is that Susan and John shack up with each other. Also, he adds a whole thing about how the reason John wants the ghost orchid is because the Seminoles turn it into drugs. Like, that's not real. Yeah. That's completely made up. So there's sex and drugs and violence, all of it, like that complete fabrication, completely made up for this, which is exactly the kind of stuff that would be made up in a movie.
But also, it's only occurring to me now that like Charlie has that whole diatribe where he like doesn't want to add stuff like that to the script, because that would be like Hollywood bullshit, right? Like just inject a bunch of like violence and sex into it that wasn't there and all this stuff. And then that's exactly what it is. It's very funny.
It's so funny. But we get these scenes, and these became some of my favorite scenes in the movie, the scenes of actually just depicting things from the book. Like here's a choice that I love as an adaptation of the book The Orchid Thief. They do show a lot of just John being John and interacting with people in the way that John LaRoche interacts with people, and interacting with Susan Orlean in the way that he interacts with her. Yeah. In all of the ways that, again, make him seem like he's very difficult to be around.
Yeah.
But one of the things, it's one of my favorite moments, and it's one of the ones that stuck with me the most since I saw it the first time, is the car crash. So one of the things that's described in The Orchid Thief, Susan talks about how John is missing his front teeth, and it happened because he was in a car accident that killed his mom, and he was driving. It's not described in detail in the book. It's an aside in the book.
Yeah.
But it becomes a fully depicted scene in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly effective and hard to watch.
Sure is. Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing where that scene being added, like Charlie Kaufman writing that scene and Spike Jonze directing it, Chris Cooper acting it, and everyone in the movie working to portray it, that's the kind of thing where they're not making fun of John. They're not making fun of this character. They're not making fun of things that Hollywood does to stories. They're genuinely asking, how can we portray this person on screen? Like, to me, at least. Like, that addition of actually showing it, because it is something that happened, but it's never really discussed in the book in detail. That, to me, is totally different than the stuff that gets added in the end with the guns and the drugs and everything like that. That's literally like, we want to describe this character. We want to show this character. We're going to use the medium that we have. And I love that scene. I mean, it's hard. It's terrible. I hate it. It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
But I found it really affecting.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Cooper's so good.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's good in this. Everybody.
Oh, like friend of the pod, Meryl Streep?
Yeah. Yay, friend of the pod. The two of them together is incredible. Like, Chris Cooper and Meryl Streep are bananas good in this. I love the scenes with the ones that are just like kind of from the book, like just them driving around and her finding out stuff. Like, it's so funny. It's like, I wish there was more. Like, I kind of do wish there was a whole movie that was just the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the stuff that had to, like, obviously there's tons of stuff that, didn't make its way into this movie, but the book is so much stuff about orchids and about the orchid subculture. But what I really appreciated was there's also so much interesting information about Florida.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. I really love how, like, she talks about how, I mean, she's not saying this outright, but what I took from it is like, Florida has maybe the vibe reputation that it does because it attracts so many like sketchy entrepreneur types. Yeah. Because it's like one of the only states in the country where you can just make more land if you want to. Yeah. And how that will kind of attract people, a bunch of Lex Luthers, like, sure. Just a bunch of people who are like, land.
Yeah.
Uh,
No one's going to understand that.
no, sorry.
I did.
But like, you know, that can be attractive to a certain type of individual who maybe has some ideas about how if they apply themselves and, you know, work hard, even if it's not necessarily legal what they're doing, then they can, you know, the American dream and stuff. Anyway, I just love all the stuff about Florida in it as well, just as much as the orchids. And of course, you know, none of that stuff kind of makes it in, but
no,
that's fine.
But yeah, I mean, but that's not what it's about. It's about passion. Yeah. It's about looking for the thing. Like, I love how much of it gets distilled down in that opening scene with LaRoche getting arrested, is that like Kaufman crams so much from the book into that scene, because the way Susan describes everything in the book is she describes the arrest and everything across multiple chapters, and little hints come out of it, and you know, John's opinion about the legality of it. Like it takes a while for it all to come out, but Charlie Kaufman just puts it all into one scene. And so it doesn't have a lot to say about Florida, but I feel like if it did, it would just be in one scene and that would be it. And it would be done.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That first scene is so broad, but it's really good. And I love how Kaufman takes LaRoche explaining the legality of everything to Orlean and changes it to explaining the legality to the park ranger,
right?
Who's stopping him,
which is very cinematic and like, you know, because it's just like he gets to give a smartest man in the room, you know, speech, even though like, you know, that's not exactly what the situation is. It's a little, but that's kind of the thing, is that it's how it would be in the script, where it would be a little bit more like that, a little bit more like LaRoche is really like on top of things and has one over on the state, which is like not exactly the reality of the situation.
No, it didn't even occur to me until now that like, yeah, they totally removed the whole thing about him being found guilty.
Yeah.
It's like it's introduced as like he found a way out of it because this guy is squirrely, you know? Like, no, in reality, he didn't find a way out of it. It turned out the state was smarter than him.
Yeah.
Turns out that most people are smarter than John LaRoche.
I do like that they still had like a courtroom scene where he's like doing his thing and like being this and then talking about how he's the smartest person he knows, he thinks, like, which is just a great throwaway, like like offhandedly pompous thing to say.
I got one last thing that's kind of along the same lines of a choice that the adaptation makes about making the book a little more into like a mainstream movie. Yeah, it adds all the stuff with the drugs and the guns and the sex and everything, but one of the other things that is changed, and it makes perfect sense given how hard it is to watch Charlie try to adapt this and all the things he needs to do, is the ghost orchid itself. So in the movie, the ghost orchid that they're looking for is like mythic and beautiful and impossible to find. And yes, when she finally does see it, she's not taken by it, but it's treated in a way where it would. And a lot of other people talk about it in these really kind of big terms. And it turns out that you can make drugs from it too, which is the whole reason that LaRoche wants to clone it. In the book, like Susan says multiple times, like, it's not even that pretty.
Right.
Like,
it's just rare.
Like, I wanted to see it because it was rare, but like, it's not like it's a particularly beautiful orchid. It's pretty plain. Lots of other orchids are more attractive. And she says this so many times in the course of the book that by like the time I got to the end of it, it is so clear when they're finally in the swamp in that final scene looking for it that like, no, she has made it incredibly clear over the course of the book that the reason she's looking for it is because it's rare, not because of how it looks.
Right.
In the movie, though, they have to change that. If it's going to be something that's a little more mainstream, they have to treat it as like, oh no, this is beautiful. It's not just rare, it's beautiful. Right. And they have to elevate it to that status. It's so
and they
weird.
do a good job. Like how the ghost orchid appears in the movie is like it's a striking orchid.
Yeah,
but they still have to they have that little thing, you know, where like she finally sees it and then it's just like, all right, you know.
I mean, I feel like there's two things we didn't talk about that we should at least mention.
Okay.
One, what did you think of Bob Yerkes' Charles Darwin in this?
Interesting.
That's another thing that I love about it is that they actually do depict like all of the factual stuff that she goes through. Like there are these really quick moments where like they're going through the history of orchid hunting. Like that's actually that's kind of fun, and that would be fun in a regular adaptation of The Orchid Thief. But no, the other one is Brian Cox as Robert McKee. Famous,
yes, of course. Yeah.
Famous guy who has screenplays figured out and gives lectures and has written books about story. And in the movie, Charlie goes to one of his lectures, and when they were talking to the real Robert McKee, they brought him a whole bunch of suggestions for who should play him, and he was the one who said, I should be Brian Cox. Like, you should cast Brian Cox. And Brian Cox kills it in the one section of the movie that he's in. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, he's Brian Coxing all over the place.
Yeah.
I also love that, like, later on when, like, you know, the movie is happening in the universe, like, the movie is being written in the universe of the movie, like the story. And when Chris Cooper finds out, he just keeps asking whoever, either Susan or when he eventually meets Charlie, he, like, when they have him at gunpoint, like,
yep.
He just keeps saying, like, who's going to play me? Like, he's like, who do you think could play me?
We didn't even really talk about how it happens, but like Charlie and Donald go to Florida to follow
because they know that
Susan.
they know that something is weird.
Yeah.
And they know that there's more to it. And it's because Donald's looking at LaRoche's new endeavor, because he switches endeavors quite often. And his new endeavor, which is a porn website.
Yes.
And they see Susan on there, which is like that's another major departure from the book that I'm sure that Orlean was not at all weirded out by. And so they go to Florida and spy on them and discover their affair and
crime.
Yeah. And crime. Yeah.
Yes. And so they end up getting taken into the Fakahatchee to kill them. And there's a giant fight, and LaRoche gets eaten by a gator, and Susan gets arrested.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's finish this thing up. This one's easy, I think. Do you think that the creators of the movie Adaptation cared about the book The Orchid Thief by Susan Orlean?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
mean, I honestly, it would not surprise me if most of the people involved in the movie never read the book.
You mean like everybody other than Kaufman? Like,
exactly. Like,
he's the only one that needed to? Yeah.
I assume Spike Jonze read it. I assume the producers read it. I assume people who were high up read it. But it would not surprise me if most people were just like, oh no, the script's amazing, I don't need to read the book. Like, this is great. Actually, I think Orlean was talking about it, like someone on the set was like, or at some point was like, did you really do those things? She's like, what? No.
Well, yeah, that is the thing you got to worry about.
Yeah, but I think if we're talking about Charlie Kaufman, like, yeah, he cared about the source material. He cared so much about it that he made this that he wrote this insane movie about not being able to adapt it for the screen. And is it successful?
Yes. In my opinion, very much so.
Mm-hmm. Well, this has been Adapt or Perish. Yeah, let's get mushy for a second. I've been doing the show for 8 years now, and I love making something. I love making something and putting it out into the world. And I am as guilty as anyone of maybe occasionally turning my personality into I have a podcast, which is it's not great. And I'm not super proud of it, but it is real. And it has been both incredibly rewarding to have done the show for as long as we've done it. I mean, this is 173 episodes, and knowing that, like, I edited every single one of those, and I make the website and I release it, and like that process of it, I love. In fact, maybe I'm not going to stop doing podcasting. Ian and I might have another show at some point, something that requires less work than Adapt or Perish.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah, I'm just so proud of the show, and I'm proud of how focused we've been, and how incredible it was to have Ari as a co-host for so long. That was a gift. And I think we can all agree that the magic really left the show, not when Ian started, when Ari left.
Yes. Oh boy. Yeah. No, I might go as far as to say when I started.
Yes.
I'll say both things because I can be mean to myself.
You, my best friend, have allowed me to continue doing the thing that I love doing. And also combining two things that I love. One, talking to you, and two, continuing to do the show and learning more about adaptation. And I guess that's the thing that I'm proudest of, is just how much we've learned. The show has always been about context. Like, it's always been about watching a movie or a TV show or anything that was based on something else always changes the context when you're familiar with the thing that it's based on. And when these things exist in a vacuum, you're losing entire levels of interpretation. And this whole thing has been about that. And it has been absolutely amazing in the years of episodes that we've done, just how often the episodes connect with each other in weird and interesting ways. It's been so rewarding to know that we went real deep on a particular topic.
Yeah.
Now you talk.
I love podcasts a lot.
Yeah.
That's, usually people that do a podcast have at least some kind of interest and fandom of the form. I did a show with you before this that was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a lot of fun. I was so happy to be able to step in to help you out so that you could keep doing something that you love. I understand, everybody understands why it's too maybe people don't understand. I want to say this, I just want to tell everybody something. This show requires a lot of watching stuff and a lot of time put in that regard,
and reading stuff
and reading stuff, a lot of time. And I do nothing except work at a job. I work at a 40-hour a week job that I don't have to take home at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a strain on my, it's enough stuff that it was a little too big for my time. And I don't do any of the actual heavy lifting work that Jeremy does for the podcast. So I can't even imagine how much it's probably straining, your at the confines of your life's time. You know what I mean? You put so much work into this because you love it so much, and you're a perfectionist.
People may not know that having listened to the show, but it's true. Imagine what the show would be like if I wasn't a perfectionist.
And it was my pleasure to help you out and also do the show, because I love the whole, the idea that we're going to watch 40 versions of Sleepy Hollow,
yeah,
or something. Sure, when you're actually doing it, it can get a little much, but after it's done and before it started, it's really cool.
Yeah.
I love doing any show that is going to make you watch a bunch of stuff that you probably wouldn't have watched otherwise. And I know I've said that before, but that's my favorite thing about it. So
it's been super fun.
Yeah.
And I'll end on this. What's made the show, other than doing the deep dive into a particular topic and being able to make stuff with the people that I love, the audience that we've built.
Yeah.
And I even feel bad saying that we've built it. We haven't built it. The audience that has built itself under us and around us, they are small, but they are awesome. They're not individually small.
There's
there's not many of them. My understanding is mostly of average size. But the audience itself is not that many people, but they are awesome. And it's been kind of great because I can actually name some of our most avid listeners, and they are real people to us. And that was when I decided to stop the show. It my first thought was I'm gonna let these people down. And because they're the only people who are clamoring for this. No one else cares. But they care. Just getting to know the audience has been the best thing. That's one of the reasons why that I think it was time to stop doing the show, because in order to continue doing it in any form, it would have to get watered down so much. We'd have to stop doing the thing that we do. And I would rather stop the show than have the show be something other than what it's been for 8 years. And Ari and I experimented with not doing as many episodes. We had a whole year where we just did 12 episodes and it was only big stuff. And that was fine. But I like the mini episodes. I like doing that stuff too. But yeah, the whole thing is just, it's too much at this point. And I'm very excited to take some time off and just watch things and not have to talk to anybody about them. Anyway.
Except for me.
Well, obviously for you, we're just going to keep talking all the time. We just won't be recording it.
I know.
Yeah, it's going to be really pathetic. We will still be talking all the time, and we'll be acting like we're recording it. We'll be pretending I'm hitting record. Wink, wink.
It's very. That's the other part. It's very difficult to talk to you on Zoom and not feel like I'm being a little bit of podcast on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure you know exactly what I mean.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Just being on some kind of video call is what makes it feel that way. And I mean, it's all strange, but yeah. It's been a pleasure.
Well, this has been Adapter Parish. If you'd like to find us online, head to adapterparishcast.com. That's not going anywhere. You can find our contact information, find the show on social. We're probably not going to post much anymore, but like the website will always be there. And if you haven't listened, if there are many episodes you haven't listened to, which I think is true for many, many people out there, that's true for almost everyone in the world, is that there are most episodes they haven't listened to. Go back through the backlog because there's some stuff in there that I'm super, super proud of. And as far as the Patreon goes, I will go ahead and say this. The show is going to stay up and the website is going to stay up. And that does cost money to keep going. Not a lot, but it does cost something. And I am going to leave the Patreon up and I'm going to leave the memberships up. And if anyone wants to join to get access to the years of bonus episodes that we've done, I think that's a fantastic way to get a little bit more of the show if you've enjoyed it. But I also will not be offended if anyone who is currently paying for Patreon for this show changes their membership to a free membership and just follows the show. I would suggest following it because if we do any other stuff, we will announce it through there. And if you're finding it now, like after the show is done, go join for free on Patreon. We'll still be on there, still be posting things every now and then. But yeah, if you want to change your membership to free, that is totally fine. I would probably do the same thing. But if you want the bonus show, it's a pretty cool way to get it. And also it does go towards the continuing costs of keeping a show hosted and keeping it available. But yeah. Supporting the show feels kind of weird to ask people to support the show at this point. Don't tell anybody about it. Don't tell anyone. Don't leave a rating and review. You're all great. And thank you all for listening. And Ian, I love you.
I love you too, man. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.